questioning oneself, one's parents, one's lecturers, one's society, and one's worldviews. Critical thinking agitates our comfort zone. It makes us understand that progress and comfort are mutually exclusive. Critical thinking makes us understand that progress and comfort have nothing in common. Critical thinking kills procrastinations and inertia. It does not let ourselves be defined by our circumstances. Critical thinking makes us understand that there is only one life, one moment, one opportunity, one chance, one body, and one brain. And you've got to ride that brain until the wheels fall off. To my second count is how being on this project has impacted me personally. During my journey here to UWC, I was emotionally beaten up every single day. I didn't have so much self-esteem to my account. Some lecturers and students made fun of me because I failed to understand what they did or at the same pace as they did. And for that, my whole being was reduced to shame. I felt unwelcome. I felt that the lecturer were up here and I was up and down there. The repercussion of thinking, the repercussions of what I went through will start coming up in my daily life. So every time you go to a class and you cannot answer a test question, you cannot answer an exam question, sometimes we think like it's because of where we come from. A simple question in a paper which cannot be answered can actually create or can actually bring up a lot of emotions that have been in dormant state for a very long time. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of us drop out. We just cannot deal with those emotions and the failures and the lack of non-acceptance at university. It made us understand in the workshop, I actually understand that we were not the repercussion of things our family did. It made us understand that we were not the noisy voice inside our head. It made us understand that we were not life's broken pieces. Neither we were not the consequences of mistakes that we have endured. The workshop made us understand that other events that have conjugated the pain inside us has absolutely nothing to do with our brain. It made us understand that we were not broken spirits, crushed by the unattained dream that we have left behind. It made us understand that we were not the color of our eyes, we were not the color of our skin, we were not our race, and we should not let ourselves be defined by the color of our skin. It made us realize that we are not our English accents, even though I'm not South African, and my accent is kind of French. But in the workshop, will you actually understand that it doesn't matter how you speak, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter how you look like. What actually matters is what you are saying about yourself. Are you going to let society create you, or are you going to create yourself to make society a better place to be? So, I'm going to tell you a small story about the different types of birds that we have in this world. There are three types of birds. The first one is the eagles. The second, the buzzards. And the last one are turkeys. Eagles, being high altitude birds, push some birds to think that they are arrogant and pompous. But that's not true. The truth is that eagles are regal, majestic, and proud. There's a natural majesticness to an eagle. And on the other side, you find another kind of birds called buzzards. The inferiority complex of buzzards leads them to step on other so that they can find elevation. But the worst kind of birds is a Thanksgiving meal, a turkey. So a turkey has got wings, but they cannot even fly. All they do is pretend, show off, portray themselves to be something they are truly not. So I'm coming to the UWC administrators, and I'm asking you one question. What kind of birds do you want UWC students to be? My last point is how this project could be expanded to benefit more undergraduates. Let us look at the future and that this project has been implemented. The benefit will be that more UW students will go out there and really do amazing work to solve some of the world's most promising problem or pressing problems, because they will be equipped with the necessary tools for critical thinking. And there is a saying that says, what we think, we become. However, in the present moment, there are many students out there who are absolutely unaware of critical thinking. And many others are going through similar hardship as I did. To these audiences, critical thinking might be the only intellectual pathogen cure. It is my conviction that exposing students to critical thinking will not only equip them with mental capabilities to solve problems and express their creativity, but more importantly, it will transform them into healthy, intellectual, social beings. We know what kind of resistance or discomfort may derive from other faculties or departments or lectures, as Prof. Ben has mentioned that, or the students to the implementation of critical thinking. However, it is my belief that this resistance or discomfort is due to the fear of our own imperfections. As Socrates said, the only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. For all the amazing achievements UWC has had or has been lucky to share with us, a lot of it has shaped us more than our churches, tradition, cultures, and families. Even if sometimes we get judged by the depth of our bad ideas instead of by the depth of our good ideas. Even if sometimes our work is often measured in half steps, and even if sometimes we do just the exam or the test just to get 50% and pass, but there are potentially hundreds of thousands of human beings who are going to complete the undergrad here at UWC, and whose fate in large part depends on the choices UWC administrators make, and the ideas, the persistence, and willingness to engage the future. But UWC will miserably fail if the administrators fail to expand critical thinking to benefit more undergraduates. While we are playing around and lowering our stake and our standard, other universities are going big. While will UWC be able to engage in the future, then it needs to start now and get ready to play its game with an injection of critical thinking in the undergrad curriculum. It is my view that critical thinking should be the first subject an undergrad student should be exposed to before any other subjects. Extending critical thinking to the undergraduate program will add tremendous value to UWC. Imagine that you can teach, or we can start teaching only 2 hours on how to run an experiment, how to ask questions, to make UWC students bold enough to be able to interact with the lecturers during the class, how to teach, especially the black child who has never experienced reading bedtime stories, how to read. Most of us came from a family where we couldn't even afford a bread or breakfast in the morning, so we never knew even how to read a book. And when you come to UWC, where you have these so huge big libraries, and you don't even know how to start searching for a specific book, you don't even know how to read, you don't know how to comment that book, you don't even know how to summarize the book, because our parents have never read a book for us. But we found ourselves at universities because we have to be here. But do we need to be here without the capacities and abilities to embrace university life? Of course, some other kids, they've had that easily. They know how to read a book, they know how to summarize it. But I appeal to lecturers to understand that there are some of us who have never experienced a reading bedtime story. To conclude, I would say this. We can actually mention how and so many ways of implementing critical thinking, as both DC and both Ben have said. But we all know that the benefits will be that UWC will then become maybe the top African university. We've got to dream big if we want to become big. That is my dream, and it's my humble opinion. This collective dream will become real only through the expansion of critical thinking in the curriculum of the undergraduate students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ben. Just before DVC takes over, I just want to thank all of the team, Project Y. The workshop organized that Ben found so moving was done by Nadia Mason, and I thank you in her absence. But I would also like to thank the DVC for the opportunity and support to enable us to engage just with 12 students. And I wish it could be 1,200. I wish it could be 12,000. In fact, I wish it could be 23,000. We have some very precious stories in these books. You've heard Ben's story. There are other similar stories here which relate directly to what Prof. Ben was saying. We need, UWC is way bigger than the intellectual project and the academic project.
Thank you very much for your very honest accounts, and don't worry, that is why we at university. There should be space for differing opinions, and we should be comfortable having those different opinions. So thank you very much, both of you, for your accounts. Maybe just for those that don't know, what we've done with this University Capacity Development Grant was to be very strategic about the kind of projects that we ask funding for from DHET. So, for example, since critical thinking is one of the in the charter of our new charter of graduate attributes, it's that important that it's actually part of some of the funding that we receive, and we're allocating funding in the areas where we think it will make the most impact. So I'm really listening very carefully. I like your idea around, because we are working towards something called a grounding model, and what should be almost like UWC 101, but I know you stole the UWC 101 for FYE soon. So we'll have to think of another thing, but it's about the grounding model. What are the kinds of things that, irrespective of whether you're a science student, whether you're a law student, whether you're in community and health sciences, that we should all be exposed to it. And I do have a bit of funding, and it can also fit in with the whole renewal of the curriculum and transformation. So the transformation of the curriculum is not only about decolonization, but also about those things that would be most important here for us. So I think the world is there. I would just like to have some, like your practical suggestion. If I can maybe just open to the floor, if there are a couple of you that have a practical suggestion as to what we can do, then I can have a look. And if we can have a few champions, then hopefully we would be able to add 1,200 or 2,000 and so on. But since we are at the stage where, fortunately, we also have a new curriculum specialist in academic planning unit. We've recently appointed him, and he's not here today, Odwa Matunishi. But that would be one of the things around our principles for curriculum, and then building a grounding model that will be uniquely. I, for example, feel that everybody should be exposed to a bit of philosophy. And whether it's the philosophy of science, or the philosophy of jurisprudence that underlies, say in law, for example, and that would also go some way. And then one thing that you mentioned that I was immediately thinking of was how do we expand our writing center to not just be about writing, but about reading and writing. And that's something for us to, as a Senate Teaching and Learning Committee, also grapple with. But I'm not going to give all the suggestions. I'm already thinking how I'll be able to spend this money to get more people involved. So, any suggestions from your side? Or comments? Okay, we have a roving mic somewhere.
I'm just going to contribute and say that I think a lot of the commentary was made about feelings being challenged in the context of critical thinking. And I think a lot of the problem there is some people are not able to discern when their thinking and pattern of thinking is being challenged and when they themselves are being challenged. So I would say possibly we need to consider small courses in making people aware of what personal and emotional intelligence is so that they can develop personal skills to develop discernment when their thinking is being critically challenged and when they are being critically challenged, which will make the whole process substantially easier.
I think all academics need that training too. Emotional intelligence. Any other? Thank you. Just jot down your thought, please, Campbell, so that we can write that. Any other? Okay. Dr. Mary?
Hi, I think one of the key things is how do we engage with the reading, and I'm from the library, so the role that the library can play. And certainly I'd like to see something in terms of the role the library plays in reading and writing, but more so towards how do we develop critical thinking as a holistic approach.
Okay, any suggestions?
Yeah, we do have information literacies and all that, but we could get together and provide an extensive program. I think we need to think around a program that all students be part of, but the library be part of the teaching and learning and more extensive in terms of collaborating or partnering with academics.
Okay, I just want to mention in the multimodal project with pedagogists and literacies project, they use the reading clubs quite effectively. So maybe we should think of a UWC reading club, especially for, like you said, we take for granted that some students wouldn't have had background reading, and how do you approach it? So it's maybe just something that we should expand. Prof. Rodo?
Thank you, Chair. I think as with everything else, there's lots of other things we need to look for opportunities within the current curriculum, you know, and in the current learning and teaching activities, so that it's not an add-on, because some of the curricula are quite full, and there are opportunities, I'm sure, and innovative ways in which we can integrate this into the curriculum.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sure.
Hi everyone, my name is Andre, Daniels from Digital Media. I just want to make a comment, especially on the notion of the Caring Institute. Now we do a lot of input with first academics at the induction course, and we grapple with the notion of, you know, the ethics of care, and also with graduate attributes. And one of the things that we've always said is, like, you know, it's kind of challenging and difficult to teach about things that we ourselves don't possess. And the whole notion about caring, and I think the issues that, you know, how do we show students that we care and neglect our own caring? That's one thing. And so sometimes in this current context, we don't always know what caring looks like. And so I think it's maybe a challenge for the institution itself, is so that we can, you know, Ben also made known this thing about experiencing. So it's one thing having courses and trainings on it, but you actually got to experience caring. And so I think it's very important for the institution to be able to show us what does that caring look like within our current context before we can show students, in fact, what that actually looks like.
You would recall yesterday we actually spoke about that. We had all these elements that either inhibit or advance success in students. And one of the things that came up yesterday, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had there the psychosocial and the well-being and those kind of things. And that's why we made the point yesterday that student success should be everybody's business. It's not just academic support. Academic support alone won't be enough. Even if we expand the tutor program to reach everything, if we don't take care of those other factors, we have quite a lot that we actually plotted yesterday, which you would have an opportunity to contribute to as well. Brighton.
Prof, I think he made a point which I was going to actually follow on, because while Prof. Kazi was talking, I was just jotting down some, as Noah said, I was just thinking about this duty of care issue. How do we come up with this scope and focus of care? I mean, its breadth, its reach, it's a value actually that we as have at this institution, because we do have a theme that says ons, you know, that we are caring. I mean, we say that about ourselves, and I think what we need to do is to ensure that, you know, there is this course that is being done, which is, I think, towards professionalization of teaching and learning. I'm thinking that maybe it must be made compulsory that every lecturer must do that, you know, because there are just a few of us who have done that. And in that, I think we must package this duty of care. What does it mean when we talk about caring for the student? I was chatting with a new lecturer yesterday, and I was actually impressed that that lecturer was asking me about how do I take care of students with disabilities? Because when it comes to the issue of saying there are scripts which have come from that unit when students have written, it's too late. What have I been doing from the word go? I mean, I wasn't even aware that in my class I do have a student with disability. And what I said to Azure is, you are a caring teacher. And I'm thinking, can we embed that in that course and make sure that everybody takes part in that? So we identify common values at our institution. Caring is one of them. And it actually cascades down to the issue of the library, ensuring that our students have a reading culture. And some years ago, from resident side, we were actually thinking of kind of encouraging this culture of reading, because there is no way that somebody can be an effective student without reading. And some of these do not have a culture of reading. And if we can link that with the duty of care, it's kind of intentionally encouraging that. If we build it into towards teaching and learning and identify common values, it will be excellent.
You've written that down now?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Any last comments?
Thanks. When I was lecturing undergraduates quite a long time ago, I've been working with postgraduates since 1999 or so. But you know, we'd have these big classes, like twice the size of this, 300 undergraduates in a lecture, and when it got to half time, half of them would leave. I don't know why, but they'd just like walk out. So it was quite discouraging as a lecturer. Like, you obviously don't have the students' attention. So I thought, what on earth can we do about this? I mean, there's this notion of, you know, the lecturer is there to provide information and the students write notes. And whether they agree or not is another matter. But clearly it wasn't very exciting. There was very little interaction, and with a hall full of 300 students, what can you do? And it's tiered like this, you know, it's not like we can sit around tables and things. So I said, well, okay, let's, I pulled a trick on them actually. I said, okay, now we're going to discuss a question, and I want you to discuss with one of your neighbors, or two of your neighbors. And this is likely to be an exam question, which it wasn't, but I just said that because it got them going. And hey presto, the students, 5 minutes, they were discussing a question, and they got very animated. They were sitting, engaging with each other about the issue. I mean, maybe some were talking about football or something, I don't know, but they seemed to be discussing the real issues. And then immediately, when the lecture went on and I asked the question, immediately there was more involvement. Hands went up. And it started to do this repeatedly through the lecture. And now it's a standard practice. And I mean, even now, I would have said, okay, ideas, but let's spend 2 minutes talking to your neighbor, or two of your neighbors. And let's get that interaction going. That's obviously often where good ideas come from, interacting with others. It's a very small thing. So my suggestion is training all lecturers in what I would call critical pedagogy. In other words, you know, it's not just about a flow of information. Yes, there is information, but a lot of it is in text which students should be reading. It's really that interaction. And I'm sure what I'm talking about is, you know, just one of many, many things one could be doing. So I've got it there, but I mean, the old model of a one-way flow of information is surely gone. It doesn't work, it's not good. Surely we should all be involved in a revolution in how we do things as an institution.
You see, the new lecturers at the moment are lucky in the sense that as part of their contracts, it's compulsory for them as part of the probation requirements that they attend. But we need to find a way in which we can get, at least take this advisedly, how you can teach old dogs new tricks to get people more enthused about, especially things such as active, what you mentioned was active learning, and also authentic learning, which is part of our graduate attributes. Any other comments? And if you feel shy, do speak to your colleagues when you leave. There should still be coffee there, and then before you leave, just make sure that you put it in the suggestion box, please.
My name is Kobe Eko. I teach anatomy.
Yes.
And from my first of all, what I would like to say is there should be subject-specific critical thinking, which can be captured. Maybe the fact members in each department can sit together and come up with something. Then there should be the broader perspective, so that when we have students with maybe medical bioscience degree, graduate, they should be able to think beyond their subjects. And that should be captured maybe in a more broader program. So students can be taught that in either an introductory program, which should be a generic thing for all students in the university. In the case of subject-specific practice, what I've done in the past, or in my practice, in my teaching practice, is to ask students, for instance, why do veins or arteries differ in the way they are represented? What makes them different? And why do they have the names they are called? So I derive some of those, the knowledge from what happens even in society. I talk about, for instance, cerebral arteria. Why is it called arterial and not vein? So I apply my knowledge to what is found around us. And I ask questions about why is the heart shaped the way it is? Why do the eyeballs, why are they shaped the way they are? You know, so I make sure students think. I do what I call think and share. 1 minute or 2 minutes, think about this, and then I'll get feedback from the class. So some of these things are subject specific and can be incorporated, as Prof has said, during the course of the lecture. But there should be maybe a way of integrating that in the different modules.
Okay. And you've jotted that down?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. This is my fourth year at UWC, and one thing I miss is not necessarily an academic lecture series, which I'm thinking of, but the kind of vibrancy on campus where you could go during lunchtime and go and listen to anything. I find the campus very dead in that. And how can you give me ideas, even just to get people to academic, because it's quite a mission. How do we get UWC students and staff out of apathy? Because it's not like people don't have ideas or thoughts or anything like that. And I do know about workload and so on, I understand that fully. But how do we make it a vibrant intellectual space where we could have a short input on topical issues, whether it's political, whether it's, and where people would come willingly and not out of compliance. So just think of ways for me, please, because that could be another way of actually getting people to think critically about the world around them and not only in relation to their own discipline. Okay? Right, and then Rabbi?
I remember some years ago, Professor Brian O'Connor once asked me that very question when we had a problem with I think it was xenophobic issues and all that. I think something had happened. And he said, then I was in student development and support. And so he asked me this question. He said, what do you think we can